Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and we are just thrilled to have as our guest today the exquisite Judith Jamison, Artistic Director Emeritus of the famed Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater, now celebrating its 60th year, and I cannot believe that, with a fantastic program of dances through the end of this year. Thank you so much for being with us today.
It is my pleasure to be with you. I admire and respect your work
so
much, and it's finally nice to meet you.
It's right. This is our very first encounter. I am beyond. I told you that my granddaughter is at your school now, and every time I go in, they have a huge photo of you, and I say, "That's the great Judith Jamison," and my granddaughter says, "I know, Gaga. You told me that last week, you know." But we are just so thrilled to be a part of that family. You have done incredible, incredible work.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. I mean, I've been working and still work, even retired. I work for this man, this genius named Alvin Ailey, who we realize is the only Black man who founded his company that has existed for 60 years. This is amazing. And we have our own 87,000 square foot building.
Which is fantastic. I told you that I love to go there and, like a kid, look through the window at everybody dancing, you know, but that was the whole idea of creating a place that was accessible.
Exactly. Accessibility was part of his mantra. The love of dance, yes. Community. Before community and outreach or reaching out became a buzzword for profit making, we were doing this. We've been doing this since the very beginning. There's a responsibility that we feel not only as artists, as dancers, as administrators, as teachers, to involve the communities that we serve, regardless of whether across the street or around the world. So that's been a part of the mantra, our accessibility, our embrace, because that's what he did for us. He embraced everyone from all walks of life, and he guaranteed us success if we would only identify ourselves as being so uniquely us, that there's only one of you. And if you don't share who that person is, then what's the point of doing the dance? He was interested in us as human beings. And then, therefore, we would have something to share with the communities that we serve, our audiences. If you can't come to an Ailey performance and be in the dark and have this wonderful, intimate experience of seeing exquisite dancers on stage who are not just doing steps. That's their heart and soul up there. That's heart and soul. That's spirit. That's what I call spiritual reciprocity. He taught us that.
Spiritual reciprocity.
I love saying that. I heard it somewhere.
I love hearing it. I'll be saying it myself now.
But it's true, though. It's like this. Like we're having a conversation, and we're looking at each other, and we're understanding, you know.
Right. I want you to tell the story of how this man first came into your life.
1963, I saw a performance when I was a student at the University of the Arts, and we were, part of our curriculum was you went to see a performance, and I went to see, with my fellow students, this performance of Alvin Ailey. There were 8 dancers in the company back then. They packed their own costumes in these big wicker baskets. They probably repaired their costumes. Everything went in station wagons. We hadn't graduated to bus travel yet. And I saw Mr. Ailey actually dance. I saw him do part of the Great Revelations.
No kidding. Is that on video?
Revelations is.
I know Revelations. Yes. We have it.
Mr. Ailey dancing?
Yes.
I think somewhere in the archive.
Oh, I would love to come to the archive. I would love to see that.
Wonderful footage of him. And at the beginning of each performance during our season, there's an introduction to Mr. Ailey that's done beautifully with different screens and mirrors and history and him talking. It's almost like he's being there, but you see him dancing in the middle of the screen, and he comes running at the audience as only he could. That's what I experienced in 1963. And didn't meet him.
You didn't meet him when you saw him first perform?
As a matter of fact, all of us thought, we had improvisation class the next day, and all of us thought, oh, let's do something original. Everyone ended up doing this, which is the motif for I've Been Buked and I've Been Scorned. We didn't do anything original. We were so impressed with it.
Okay, so let's take a look at that, because it is an incredible, Revelation's my favorite. I've Been Buked and I've Been Scorned. And the Pilgrim's Sorrow.
That's the section, yes.
I
That every single time I see it, I told you I bought the video for my grandchildren to watch. I said, if you can't get to the theater to see it, but you can get to the theater to see it because it's in the current showing, your program.
Always during our 5-week season at New York City Center, we're there 5 weeks. There's no other company that's there for 5 weeks. So we close on the 30th. But then we go on tour for the next 5 months so you can see us around the country. And then after that, we go on the world tour so you can see us around the world. And then we come back to our home theater, our resident theater, and do the whole thing over again. We're so blessed and so fortunate to have known some of us, there are very few of us left now, who actually worked with him, but to be able to carry on his work. And he laid the vision, he planted the seeds. All we had to do was follow the map, So what Robert Battle is doing now is absolutely what Mr. Ailey would have wanted. He stepped the company to another level to see a fresh horizon, to bring in new works, new choreographers, and still stay true to the past. Okay. So Revelations will exist.
Right. That is something. So Robert Battle took over from you. Yes. We were all, I want you to know, we're such Judith Jamison fans. We were like, no.
And I was going, yes, thank you. Because when I chose him, I knew he could fulfill the idea of being absolutely genuine about his understanding of dance. I had brought his choreography into the company before.
Yes.
Two other pieces. And I knew how brilliant he was as a choreographer. And I knew he understood what accessibility meant, what the love of dancers and understanding them as human beings, what the responsibility was for raising money, because it's a not-for-profit organization.
So you did all of that for
every
a chunk of
chunk of 21 years. 21 years as artistic director.
You could have done it another 21. Come on, Judith. So we love Robert. We
absolutely adore him. I rest very well. I go to the theater and enjoy everything just as much as you do without twitching.
So that the fundraising for a company like that has got to be, was that in fact the bulk of your work talk to us about what it's like to run a company. I want to know, you're out raising money, you're trying to keep your dances, you're trying to look for creativity, the next dance, the next star, the next...
Right, but what's great about it is you have an entire staff, with an executive director who's in charge of all this, and he has people underneath him or her. I must stick this in, that when Mr. Ailey passed away, he left women in charge.
Ah, very good.
Didn't know that.
A lot of women.
A lot of women in charge. Sylvia Waters was the director of Ailey too. Denise Jefferson, the late Denise Jefferson, was the director of the school. There were a lot of women running it. So the men are still doing fabulously, headed by Robert, but Bennett Rink is the executive director. So he's in charge of that. So you kind of just put the icing on top of the cake. So it's wonderful to meet people who are really genuinely interested in supporting the company and not just throwing money.
Sure.
So that's rewarding. But that's not all you do. You have an entire executive staff that there's so many people that love Alvin that work on every floor of the Alvin Ailey, the Joan Weil Center for Dance, because we named it after our chairman of the board. You're taken care of there. So it's not as distressing as you might think.
And we should, for those who don't know, that there is the company and the second company, but there also is the school where my granddaughter is enrolled in.
There's that, and there's also the BFA program with Fordham University. And the extension program, which you're going to take class in or something.
Well, now you're teaching a class on January 5th,
Mr. Ailey's birthday. I'm teaching a class there.
For Alvin, and I've threatened to come.
Yes.
You say that I could observe, I don't have to dance.
You can, but I'd rather see you out there sweating.
What do I have to wear? What's the apparel for a Judith Jamison dance class?
Leotard tights, shoes, no shoes.
And are you like a mean prima donna?
I am so good.
You in the back row.
The mean prima donna had to do her laundry this morning. So there's no such thing as the feet are on the floor.
Okay, great. Well, I'm thrilled to know that you are still, so that we can still participate in your hands-on interpretation of dance and of more than that. It's, you know, there always was about you and still is that spiritual piece of it. You know, it's not just dancing.
But the dancers have that. That's one of the reasons. Masazumi Chaya has been there since 1972. He's the associate artistic director of the company. 72, straight through, right? So he's the associate artistic director. And he also worked with Mr. Ailey. He was an assistant. But it's the dancers that embody, every time they get on stage, what Mr. Ailey was about.
Right. Now, you danced with him, and then you went off and started your own company.
I did, but you forgot, I was on Broadway with Gregory Hines and Phyllis Hyman and some of the most wonderful artists in the world in that interim. And I kept coming back and forth to guest with Ailey Company. Yes.
Right. Did you enjoy your own company? I know he drafted you back and said...
Fabulous time. With the Jamison Project, it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. But when duty calls, and if you love someone, you do what you have to do. And this man's imprint on the world has never to be forgotten. And the only way we can sustain his creativity, his love of us, his genius, his honoring his fellow artists, and honoring just people, is to keep him in front of you. Make sure you understand live performance and what it is to participate in a live performance by being an audience member and being transported, being lifted when you leave the theater, you know, and having your mind change any way you want it to go. There's no like menu, you have to do this, and there's no test afterwards. You come and get submerged in what this man said should be, which is the truth. We're telling you the truth out there. There is no reason and no time for us to go this way or this way or this way. Fork tongue, no time. Dance, when it's done properly, when it celebrates what he celebrated, which was the African American cultural experience and an expression in the modern dance tradition of our country. Dance came from the people, should always be delivered back to the people. The dancers on stage are doing exactly that, and it's coming from here, not from the periphery of, yeah, I can do a million turns and don't I look great?
We always ask our guests at the beginning of the show, but of course we got carried away. But it's so charismatic to place themselves in Black America. You grew up in Philadelphia, and this spirit, this desire to be a dancer, was that creativity in your family?
No. My mother was an athlete and a homemaker. My father sang opera, not professionally. He played classical piano, not professionally. Professionally, he was a sheet metal mechanic and a carpenter who I would hear and see playing Sonata Pathétique or Moonlight Sonata, these rough hands, calloused hands on our upright piano. So I grew up listening to music. I listened to Duke Ellington on these records. My aunt had a great body sense of humor. She was a lawyer. And
that's what every family needs, a body sense of humor. Somebody has to have it.
And nobody cussed, nobody smoked. No, you know, it was a different time, right? But I grew up I was born in 43, so I'm a war baby. And they had gotten through the Depression.
Right.
You know, how it amazes me. I look back on my parents and say, how did you do this? How did all those parents bring up children to then be able to flourish as I did? And that was because of the love, the extended family, that direction, the guide, the way you should go was demonstrated by how they acted. You know, they were the examples of how you carry yourself. Mother Bethel AME Church.
Right, church influence.
I'm now a member of Abyssinian Baptist Church because it's closer to me and everything. And I love Reverend Calvin O'Butts III. What can I say? I love the church. I love the church. But growing up in that atmosphere and having the Philadelphia Art Museum and the Rodin Museum and the libraries, Philadelphia is so culturally rich. And then all of a sudden on the Mummers Parade, which was an annual thing, there'd be people out there in blackface.
Right, precisely.
I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second. But my parents, they explained all that to me. I got it.
Right.
You know, I got it. So I was loved and protected and sheltered to a certain extent, but I was out there in the world because of their strength. My grandmother, my grandparents, the people that
They
loved my
encouraged
teachers.
what did they have to say
And I
about
had no
your...
idea about wanting to be a dancer.
No?
I was having fun. I was 6 years old when I took my first class. So it was fun. I mean, I was scared to death. You go out on stage, you're like this, oh goodness. And then afterwards you dance, and afterwards they applaud. Oh, I love this. So I had fun.
You had found your home.
Right, but I didn't know I wanted to be a dancer until way later.
Right, right.
Much later.
Right. Well, we have a clip. You were honored at the White House. Let's take a quick look at this.
Yeah.
What brings us together today is the extraordinary career of an amazing, phenomenal, fly woman, the renowned dancer, choreographer, and artistic director, Judith Jamison. So let's embarrass Judith a bit. Would you please stand, my dear? I know. It's the lights. Thank you, Judith. Thank you so much.
So tell us about being there.
Oh my goodness. There are more times than I've been with any other president, because I've been in the White House more times than you can shake a leg.
How many do you have a count on it?
I started with the forts, because Miss First Lady Betty was a former dancer.
I was dancer, of course.
But
Right.
we have performed for so many presidents.
Right.
My first appointment in the government was actually done by Nixon. I was appointed by him for the National Endowment of the Arts. So that was 72.
72,
so
right.
Presidents. You just keep naming the presidents. I won't say who we didn't go for, but
Right.
been in there. But this, what a pleasure.
Right.
What a total, absolute pride and pleasure to be honored by the First Lady, and to have them actually mention the fact that when they were young couple, and they had just been married, they had very little furniture and stuff. They had things on their walls, art on their walls.
Right.
One of the things that was their art on the walls was a picture of me and cry.
Right.
And I was told they used to come see us in Chicago.
Right, right.
Before everything. So it's with such pride, and I was so honored to be honored by the First Lady and Mr. Obama, our president.
Right. Well, I do that now at the school. We're steadily buying up all of the posters.
Some of them you can't get.
I know, and some of them, they say, well, this one is 20. Of course, the one you want is 150. But I say, yes, of course. So we're going to have the full collection.
What do you mean they charge you $150 for a book? What are you talking about? Tell me who that is.
All right, we'll talk afterwards. Oh, good. No. But I'm so thrilled. Talk to us about you did one book. You said you're not working on another one, and the thrill of that was.
Well, that was fabulous because it was Mrs. Onassis that asked me to buy. She used to come to our studios, our studios just before we built our permanent home on 63rd Street. She used to come visit us. Right, and just
I think I've seen her in the audience at a performance.
Yeah, she used to come like crazy.
Right.
But in our studio, she used to just come, no announcement, no nothing, and we would find out, and everybody would be like, "Oh, Mrs. Onassis is here," and she would just walk through. The kids maybe knew her or didn't know her.
Right.
And she would come
Jackie
to the back.
O, right.
Exactly. And
Right.
then one day she just said, I really would like it, and I went like, oh, okay. So Doubleday published 1993, I think it was, if it was then, this wonderful book, which I dictated most of it because I couldn't be there. I was on the road.
Sure.
So I couldn't be there most of the time. But
this it's called Dancing
job.
Spirit. It's just a wonderful.
Yeah, I was so pleased.
And then to have Jackie, for those who don't know Jackie Kennedy Onassis, who was the one who insisted that you do it. And then you wound up on Time's list of the most influential people
who
ever.
still had to do their laundry. I love that. I love that. I'm so influential.
Did that change your life at all when you show up on a list like? What did you say when you heard that?
Well, let me tell you where I was when I found out I made it on the cover. I had it in my hand. I was at Penn Station. I was on a train, and who's the wonderful actor from Law and Order? him that plays the
Right.
the head lawyer.
Yeah.
Forgive me if you're
Yeah,
watching this, but he was on the train with me. It was a cellar, and it was not the quiet car, but it's kind of quiet.
Right.
I saw myself on the car and I said, "Oh, I made it." He was walking by, and I said, "I made it."
Is that
I
Sam? Was that
recognized
Sam?
Sam
Watterson,
Watterson, yes.
Watterson, right.
So I look. I don't know if he knew me from Adam, but I was like, "I made it. Look." So I was like a kid.
Right.
And then I settled down.
Right. Great. So, we always ask our guests to, in addition to placing themselves in Black America, to talk about the strength and the power of Black America. How do you define that?
I have to wake up Black every day, which gives me power already. Because I know I'm living two lives.
Right,
I'm
right.
living two, there's that face and that face, but I'm always Black. And I have so much strength in my history and in my ancestors and finding out more and more about them. And I have so much strength from looking at these young people who are doing the right thing. They aren't all what you see glorified on television. There are Black children out here that are carrying the banner. They've been lifting us up all this time. They don't get recognized. And I treasure them because I know there's a future. So that gives me hope. Mm-hmm. And it gives me a sense of, even in these times, it still gives me a sense of knowing that somebody's going to still be in charge. Mm. And it's going to be you, and it's going to be you, and it's going to be you because you remember where you came from. That gives me strength. Young people give me strength.
And as it pertains to the dance world, in terms of what you see when you started as a dancer and dancers who are beginning now, we have Misty Copeland, of course, who...
It's getting tough.
Tougher?
Tough. It's always tough. From the beginning, everyone has their struggles.
Right.
Right. Everyone has their struggles. Each generation has a different set of struggles. The underlying one with Black folks is they're still not getting hired to do certain things. I look at commercials on television or shows with dancing in it. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at it and I'm going like, where are the Black people in there? And how come they're back there on the corner? Mm-hmm. Or where are the chocolate children? How come they're not even seen? They're way back there. Where are we? We have to be in charge of that. Mm-hmm. We have to be in charge of placing ourselves. Mr. Ailey became in charge of placing himself in this great arena of dance that was dominated not by Black people. You heard of Catherine Dunham, you heard of the great Carmen de Lavalade, you heard of Dr. Pearl Primus, I could go on and on and on. But to visually see this constantly, you couldn't. You had to seek it out. You still have to seek it out. But when you do, it opens the door for everything in your life. As a young Black person, you don't have to, when you come to our school, for instance, you don't have to turn into a dancer. Unless you want to, right. But you can turn into someone who understands who they are. Mm-hmm. Because as Mr. Ailey used to say, it's called blood memories. We have these blood memories since the beginning of time, and you have that in your blood, and you find strength in that, and I'm there to remind you. And every time you see an Ailey performance, that's what we're there for, to remind you of your beauty, your creativity, your intelligence, your perseverance, everything about you is about strength, because we've gone this far for so long that, my God, I can't even see where this is going because it's so bright. The future is so bright for our young Black people. It's so bright for them.
Well, you certainly are doing your part, and Alvin Ailey's part, that keeping that legacy alive, as you say, that is not an easy thing. That has to be worked at every day because erasure is such a prevalent happening, to Black people in their contributions to this country and to the world.
Absolutely. There are people still actively taking things out of textbooks, about our history, as if or one paragraph of something that was a monumental experience in our history, in our lives. It's still happening to this day. Therefore, you have to be here. You have to be here. You have to be present, and you have to know who you are and stand firm or dance firm.
I love that. That's a great way to end this. I hope you will come back.
I will.
You're such a pleasure. I've admired you for so many, many, many years, and to be able to sit down across from you is a thrill and a pleasure. Judith Jamison, just a force of nature. You know, if you can't stand firm, you should dance firm. Thank you, Judith Jamison,
Okay,
so
you're
much.
welcome.
The Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater can be seen at City Center through the end of this year. Do not miss it. And thanks to you out there for watching us. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America, and we'll see you the next time. Thank you.